There it is. Sweet. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to round 15 of the Spec Esports PS4 Americas series. We are moving away from continental Europe and we're finally moving to Southeast Asia, to a very notorious racing circuit. We are moving to the Singapore Grand Prix here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit. 3.1 miles and 23 corners makes this one of the more notorious circuits on the calendar. A lot of corners you have to negotiate, coupled with the fact that this is one of the narrowest and most demanding circuits on the calendar, makes this a very interesting race. But the most interesting part of this entire race is its sheer length. About a race lap time around this circuit is around about a minute 40. It tends to fluctuate a little bit, considering tyre degradation and whatnot. So about a minute 40. There's 31 laps around here. Minute 40 in seconds is around about 100 seconds. So 100 times 31 is 3100 seconds. Converting that into minutes is 51 minutes, and that's at consistent race pace at a minute 40. That's not considering tyre deg, that's not including safety cars, and that's not including the unpredictable weather conditions around this circuit, and the almost certain safety car and virtual safety car around this circuit. So expect this race to be well over 1 hour long. This is this is going to be a very long race, and I hope it isn't boring. There's a nice concoction of stuff that should make this race really, really interesting, but because this is a street circuit, and because drivers tend to go into a sort of survival mode around here, they tend to self-preservate, and they don't want to try and overtake someone due to the risk of taking themselves out, getting damaged, or taking someone else out. So, we'll have to wait and see, though. See how the drivers behave around this circuit. Now, we should be readying up pretty soon. I believe there's still one driver on the way. I think. And seeing as we're still here, I might as well talk about the championship, because this is turning out to be quite a championship for both the drivers and the constructors championship. So we'll talk about the drivers first. It's a three-way fight. It has been throughout this entire season between Alpoom, BRT Fast, and Matthew Dernier. Three different teams, three different nations as well. Alpoom, which is now SMM Alp, so I'm guessing he might have joined a race team, which is why his name has changed, I'm guessing. So we'll just call him Alp from now on. BRT Fast, the Brazilian, and Matthew Dernier, the American, and fittingly enough, they're also in three different race teams. And it's quite a close championship. Alp is currently leading on 271 points. Fast in P2 on 250, 21 points behind. And Matthew Dernier, where are you? The Ferrari driver. There he is. On 218 points, 53 behind, which is quite some margin, but there are still plenty of races to go ahead in this season. And from what I hear in the Discord chats, he seems pretty confident around this circuit, so perhaps this might be a turning point in his championship efforts to try and close the gap between himself and Alp, and Fast as well. And these three drivers in these three respective teams are also fighting in the Constructors' Championship. Racing Point currently leading on 374, with Mercedes in P2 on 348. 26 behind Racing Point on 374, and Ferrari in P3 on 316 points, 58 behind Racing Point. So it's very, very close between those teams as well. And currently, to just show you how dominant these top three drivers are, the driver in P4 is being sandwiched, Alp's teammate, And I believe he's on 100 and something. I'll just quickly double check that. More or less the battle for the best of the rest championship. Let's see. Where are you? There you are. So yes, Matthew Dernier on 218 in P3. P4 is being sandwiched on 103. 115 points behind. That's how big of a gap it is between the top three to the rest of the field. Then Matthias Fass's teammate in P5 on 98 points. So it's a good little battle between those two for the best of the rest. Captain Schmeg in P6 on 72 points. Jamil F1, now a full-time driver for Red Bull, on 67. Perry the Dog, the reserve driver, 66. Latoupe on 62 points in the IO. And LAS Purple rounding out the top 10 of 53 points. So yeah, it's a massive gap from 4th all the way up to 3rd. And that battle for 4th will probably dictate the Constructors' Championship as well, considering how close it is between Racing Point and Mercedes. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen, for Singapore. The 18-minute qualifying session is about to begin. Now, like I said before, it tends to rain around here. Quite unpredictable weather conditions, as it was proven 12 hours ago on the Tier 2 Pacific Series race that I had the privilege of commentating. According to someone during the stream, it was supposed to be completely dry running all the way through the race. Turns out, towards the end, it started to rain. Wet weather conditions came in at the end, and it shook up the order a little bit. Not to a great deal, but a little bit. And it looks like it's relatively clear. This is the problem with the night weather. It's difficult to tell when the conditions are overcast, because it's just black. You can't see anything. So I just have to go off what it looks like at the moment, and it looks completely dry. I'm sure someone will inform me as Jamil has left the session. I won't be able to send an invite to him because I'm a spectator. Spectators aren't allowed to send invites, apparently, because that's how the game works. So, let's begin qualifying here at Singapore. Now, another note around this place is tyre strategy, and there's two strategies available. It's either mediums to hards, the one stop, or it's a two stop, which is probably soft medium in my opinion, because the soft tyre is absolutely horrible around this place. You want to avoid it at all costs. Both strategies work around the idea of having track position, but at different times in the race. So if you're doing the two stop, so let's say you'll most likely qualify on the soft compound tyre, and then you'll do two stints on probably mediums. With that soft tyre, you are most likely going to qualify higher up the field, obviously, and you'll get that initial track position. So you'll get track position at the start. Whereas with the one stop, because you don't have to do an extra pit stop, you get track position towards the end of the race. So it's all about personal preference. Do you want that track position earlier on? Try and get that clear air early in the race and build a gap to the rest of the field? Or do you want to try and play the long game and try and get track position towards the end? It's all down to personal preference and how you operate yourself as a racing driver. Do you prefer having that clear at the start and really push the car to its limit towards the start and pull away? And the two-stop is probably more worth it if you're a driver who tends to wear out their tyres a little bit more, because it just gives you that extra confidence to just push the car a bit more and to abuse the tyre a little bit. Now, who will be the first driver to set a flying lap? I think it's a Alpha. It is. It's Captain Schmeg, quite fittingly. The driver currently 6th in the championship. He will take us around this lap of Marina Bay, coming into turn 1, 4th gear. Another thing about this circuit is that you really have to abuse the track limits if you around here. You can't be complacent. You really have to use every single millimeter of this track. If you don't, you're just going to be wasting too much time. Here we go, into turn 7. This is a hot spot for me. A lot of overtaking happens there through turn 7. And if you can hold it side by side through turn 7, you have a run through turn 8 as well. You can fight back through turn 8 and through turn 9. Now onto this short straightaway into the notorious Singapore Sling. Back on its original version back in 2008, it was quite the notorious section. A very narrow, tight, twisty chicane that claimed many, many front wings. Rather famously took out Kimi Raikkonen. I think that was in 09, I think. Memory serves me correctly. Into turn 14, another overtaking opportunity there. Heavy braking zone. Can send one up the inside. Into turn 16 and 17. Now into the cascade of 90s. 18. Turn 19, he's got traffic. Hopefully that Renault won't be too much of a hassle. Underneath the overpass of turns 21 and into 22 and 23. Ooh, a little bit tentative there is Captain Schmeg, but he sets a 1 minute 36.9. Goes to P1. Dan the Racer X rather. Got confused with another racer. 1 minute 39.0. Fair way off Captain Schmeg's time. On the hard tyre you do expect that. Let's see. The next driver is a McLaren. Is that Laquito? It is. He'll come across the line to set a 41.3. Now Bean Sandwich, I think? No, it'll be Alp, the championship leader. This will be a far better representation of a lap around this circuit. Through turn 3, there's JFD in the Ferrari, who was playing a major role in the Constructors' Championship for the Scuderia. Trying to score as many points as he can to try and keep them in championship contention. John Neves sets a 1 minute 39.7 as LAS Purple sets a 1 minute 40.3. And then, wow, okay, so Matthias and Bean Sandwich in the 37.6s. These two, as what? 36.9 from Fast on the hard tyre. That is an awesome lap. Oh no, Alp. He's got Laquito in front of it. Oh no. Now, Laquito, was he on the lap? Yeah, it seems like it. But he's out of fuel, is he? No, just very low on fuel. Alpin would not be happy with that. Laquito had already set a lap time. No, I think Al will come back into the pits. And he pulls off to the side. I think that's the Ferrari Macedonia. No, it's JFD. On the hard tyre. Oh, and into the wall! Goes JFD. Just some wheel spin. Just too early on the throttle. At the bus stop section. Gets massive damage and he'll have to come in as well. So there we go. Now, I was talking about this earlier, that these two are championship rivals for 4th place, the best of the rest, and they're only separated by 0.002 of a second between them. 0.002 seconds. Absolutely ridiculous, and they're on the same tyre as well, showing very, very good pace. Let's see. Seems that Jamil is on a flyer. On the soft tyre as well. So he's going to try and prioritise track position at the start of the race, which can work out in your favour because of the safety car that tends to come out around this place. But it is possible for the safety car not to come out. That's what happened in Pacific Series last night in Tier 2. We had absolutely no safety car. We had 2 virtuals, but that was about it. Jamil comes across the line. It's a 35.9. Goes fastest, obviously, on the soft tyre. I'm sure when the other drivers come out, hopefully we'll see a few more drivers on the softs just to see a bit of challenge for Jamil. intermediate start, then dries up for the race. Thank you. Thank you for that. Definitely needed that. Mediums to hards for the win. Well, that's what happened in Pacific Series. The driver that won did a medium to hard strategy. He won by 30 seconds. It's one of the biggest margins I have ever seen, period, in a Formula 1 race. He absolutely dominated. However, the guy who finished second in a McLaren, he started from last, from 20th on the grid, finished second. So it shows it's not impossible being buried in the middle of the pack to climb your way up through the field and finish in a very solid finishing place rather. Now Matthew Dernier, one of the championship contenders on the medium tyre as well. This will be his only set of mediums. You're only allowed one set of mediums due to the tyre allocation system in this game. If you choose either the balance door, and that's his lap done. That one mistake, lap done. There's no point continuing. Just chuck it into the pits, there we go. Alrighty. I think this is going to be a lap and a half here, people. What I'm going to do, turn off track map. I'm going to turn off all that. I think we just need to sit and watch what this guy can do. Championship leader around Singapore. Oh, and he overshoots turn one. I wonder. And he overshoots massively. I have to say, that's not very well done from out there. Bit too eager, I guess. Hearing me. See there, Matthew, he's now put on the soft tyres in the garage, so he's going to be doing oh, well, most likely we'll be starting on the soft compound tyre. But yeah, some very uncharacteristic errors from out there through turns 1, 2 and 3 at Singapore. Typically he's a lot cleaner than that, but he overshot massively into turn 1. See, JFD, okay, LAS skid in the Haas. Still 5 drivers yet to set our lap time, with only 7 minutes and 20 seconds left in the session. Alright, into turns 18, 19, 20 and 21, the bus stop here. Sector 2 yellow flags, it's just a slow car. Going out of the bus stop into the final 2 corners. Where will the Haas driver qualify? On the soft tyre as well. Oh, he must have made a mistake on the lap. 39 flat. And no, he's pulled out of the lap as well. Must have made a mistake somewhere. Let's see. JFD in the Ferrari. Ferraris are currently... Oh, and Flavius is holding up JFD. JFD still qualifies 7th, but he won't be happy about that. Oh, and into the back of him! Okay, okay. Ooh. Now, was that Flavius braking too early, or was that JFD saying, mate, I'm not very happy with what you did there? Flavius, a 1 minute 41.2. Bean Sandwich now jumps to the top of the table. A 1 minute 35.8 on the medium tyre as well. Oh, and Fass is on the mediums as well, so we might have a few split strategies here from a couple of drivers. Let's see, Matthew Dernier. Now, he said this lap was going to be good. He made no secret of the fact that he likes this place, so we'll see what he can do. What's the current pole time? A 35.7, or effectively a 35.8. Let's see what he can do. Through sector 1 into turn 7, 4th gear. Very nice. Probably second? First maybe? Nope, just second. 4th gear. Right up towards the apex. 6th gear. 7th gear. No, carry 6, okay. Through the chicane, over the Anderson Bridge into the hairpin. 2nd gear, 1st gear to get that rotation. Short shifts to 2nd to minimise wheel spin, to try and get that power down. Into turn 14, heavy on the brakes. 3rd gear, 2nd, short shifts to 3rd. Comes out of there into 15, 16 and 17. Goes quite nicely. Into turns 18, 19. 3rd gear, does he use 2nd? No, just keeps it in 3rd. Bit of oversteer at corner exit, but he catches it well. Through turn 21, into 22 and 23. A 35.7 is to... Oh, the back end is everywhere, but he still goes fastest. But I'm sure he can go a lot quicker than that. That back of the Ferrari was absolutely everywhere through that final sector. How he didn't put it into a wall amazes me. Because when I lose the car like that, it's definitely going into a wall. There is no way it is not going into a wall. Alright. Now will this be a better lap time from Alp? No, he's pulled out of it. What on earth has happened there? Well, if I enable... Oh, he's invalidated again. Now, he's got enough time to set another lap, but this is very uncharacteristic from the championship leader. You can also see, just by looking at the order so far between these drivers, that it's very split on what strategy to go with either the 1-stop or the 2-stop. I'm sure all of the medium runners will be prioritising the 1-stop unless there's a safety car. Now BRT Fast on the medium tyre comes through the final 2 corners, a 34.9. Cuts down his own time by 2 seconds and beats Matthew Dernier by 4/10 on the medium tyre. But I'm sure Matthew's got plenty of speed that up his sleeve that he can use. But it seems he's out of fuel, I think. He is out of fuel. Now he drives it in there at full speed to try and minimise the time lost, because he's got 2 minutes and 30 seconds now to try and set another flying lap. Now he's going to be cutting everything to try and get to the start-finish line. I am almost certain that he's going to be trying to cut everything to get back to the start-finish line to start another lap. And here we go, Alpoom again into turn 1. He gets through turns 2 and 3 cleanly this time, but he's probably lost a little bit because he's too cautious. He needs to be abusing those track limits to try and get up towards fastest time on the medium tyre. But with the soft compound, I'm sure he's able to quite easily beat it. Through turn 6, into turn 7, 8 and 9. Heavy braking zone, 3rd gear, 4th gear, and he'll use 2nd. 1st, there we go. As we got some slow traffic in the 1st sector, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now Alp, who has he got in front of him? It's a Mercedes. I think, or it's either Matthias or Fass. It's Matthias. Hopefully the Brazilian will pull himself out of the way on an out lap. He doesn't want to hold up current championship leader. Very well done there by Matthias. Got out of the way. Didn't cost Alp any sort of time. Apparently purple in sector 2. I saw that flash of purple. Another slow car again. It's a Haas. Okay, into turn 16, into turn 17. Uses 4th gear. 2nd gear through here. Oh, right up to the wall. My goodness, I thought he was going in then. No, just right up towards it. Oh, and right up towards that as well. Really using every inch of circuit. And here we go, up to the line. He goes 2nd fastest. Wow. A 34.9. That's how good Fass's lap time was on the mediums. That is an awesome lap time. Now, I believe the Tier 1 pole time was a 1 minute 34.3. And at the moment, the only real driver that I could possibly think of getting the time is Matthew Dernier. But I don't think he has enough time to get to the start-finish line. No, he doesn't. He's run out of time, for sure. His quality session is done. It is P3. So it's all up to this man, is it? Being sandwiched. Oh, wow, Jamil, where did you come from? A 1 minute 34.8 on the soft tyre. He jumps up to pole position. Anyone else? Theus on the mediums. We'll see his Sector 2 split. He's 1.1 seconds up. Okay, so 36. That will put him up to about P6 at this stage. But he can probably find a bit more time through the third sector. Here we go. Underneath the grandstand goes Matthias. Is Alp still on a lap, I wonder? I'll just quickly check his current time. But here we go, through the final two corners. It's a 1:35.5, puts him P5 in front of his championship rival. But his rival is on a flyer, and Alp's pulled out of a lap. Okay. Can Bean Sandwich do it? Can he overtake his rival? He's got Latouf right in front of him. Here we go through the final two corners. 33, 34, 34.7, he goes to pole! A 1 minute 37.79. Puts him P1. 1/10 of a second quicker than Jamil. And that will be qualifying here at Singapore. It's a racing point on pole, but it's not the one you think. Bean Sandwich, pole position. But ultimately, I think the driver in the box seat to win this race is BRT Fast. P3 on the medium tyre. That is an awesome bit of qualifying by the Brazilian. And he's in a very, very good place to take the win here at Singapore. But for now, let's just celebrate the fact that Bean Sandwich will start on pole position by a 1/10 of a second to Jamil in P2. Fast P3 on the mediums as well. That is an awesome lap time. Alp in P4. Matthew Dania P5. He won't be happy with that, I think, after how confident he sounded in the Discord chat. P5, it's not where he wants to be. Matthias P6. So it's looking good for the Mercedes guys. They might be on for a 1-2 finish. Latouf P7, Racer X P8, Captain Schmeg P9, and Kimmy in the Haas, a fill-in driver for tonight, will be starting in P10. So, let's get on with it, shall we? So apparently it's intermediate conditions for the start, if I remember correctly. Oh, wait a minute, it's intermediate for the start. It's intermediate for the start. Oh, I'm a fool. Why did I pick up on that? Why did Fass and Matthias qualify on the mediums if you're going to start in intermediate conditions? Oh, I am a fool. What did they qualify on the mediums for? You wasted a perfectly good set of mediums. I completely forgot about that. That wasn't very good stuff then from the Mercedes guys. Clearly they didn't read the weather conditions pre-qualifying. Well, at the start of qualifying. Well, anyway, throughout qualifying, you were able to see the weather for the race, unless Mercedes got some sort of glitch to where they were shown full dry conditions for the race. But that wasn't very smart from both Mercedes drivers to not qualify on the soft tyre. At least one lap on the softs. Jamil has left the session again. Hopefully he'll be able to join back. Starting P2, it's a very nice qualifying position. But wow, okay, I completely forgot it was intermediate for the start of this race. Bean Sandwich on pole position, and he'll be absolutely ecstatic about that. He's probably wondering why Fass and Matthias qualified on the mediums as much as I am after thinking about it. And he's joined back, good to see. Telemetry, there we go. So it's been sandwiched on pole, Jamil in P2, Fast in P3. He might be a bit frustrated after realising what the weather's actually like. Alp in P4, but he might have qualified on the medium tyre, but he's out-qualified his championship rivals in P4 and P5, Alp and Matthew Dernier. Matthias in P6, he is a fair way behind his rival being sandwiched, but this is a long race, anything can happen. Latouv in P7, Racer X P8, Captain Schmeg P9. Looking good for the Alphas, P7 and P9, but unfortunately they're stuck in the midfield. You don't want to be stuck in the midfield around here. Kimi in P10, JFD P11. That's not a great qualifying position for the Ferrari driver. Hopefully he'll have a good race and score some good points for the Scuderia. LAS Purple P12, Nick McCoat P13, John Neves P14, Chucky back on the grid P15, Solano back on the grid P16. Now is that Giacano or Giacano? Because I know in certain languages the J is pronounced as a Y. I'm going to stick with the J for now, but I'm sure I'll ask after the race how it's properly pronounced. LAS Skid in P18, Flavius P19 and Laquito rounding out the grid. So the drivers are now lining back up into their respective grid slots, ready for undoubtedly the longest race of this championship. 31 laps around this 3.1 mile circuit. In intermediate conditions, it's going to be a very long start, and if there's a safety car or two, it's going to be even longer. But here we go. 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go here at Singapore, and everyone creeps off the line just trying to make sure they don't spin out at the start. And down the inside goes the Mercedes, but a contact! Oh, and there's that Alp! Is that Alp who's been spun round at turn 1? I think it is. Oh my goodness me, that is not a great start for the championship leader. Oh, the Williams has almost gone into the wall at turn 3. It seems that the midfield has gotten through relatively unscathed, minus Alp. He had contact between himself, the Ferrari of Matthew Dernier, I believe, and the Mercedes-Benz of Matthias, who had an absolutely sublime start. Now coming into turn 7, everyone creeps through relatively well. Seems that we've gotten through the first lap relatively unscathed. No, I haven't seen any end plates come off. Oh, hang on. Something's happened back here. Here we go. Something's happened to Laquito. Oh, and those tyre temperatures are going to be absolutely all over the place, so he needs to be careful. Oh boy, we have got some stuff going on back here. And look at Alp. He has fallen all the way down to 15th place, and he's got wing damage, I think. That looks like... Oh, he definitely has wing damage. Look at that. That is completely and utterly destroyed. Oh my word, the championship leader all the way down in 16th place with a completely broken front wing. That will 100% need to be replaced. There is no way you are staying out there, son. You will need to come into the pits to get that thing changed. Flavius disqualified from the session, parked in a dangerous location. So we've already had the first retirement or disqualification from the event, but being sandwiched, leading the way, completing lap 1 of 31 here at Singapore, with Fast right in behind. He'll be desperately looking to find a way past him, because this will have major championship implications if the standings stay as they are, but they won't. They just won't here at Singapore. 31 laps around a circuit this difficult. Anything can happen. Solano, a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. Now Fast, he's got plenty of speed. Will he look to the inside? No, he won't. He will settle in behind. Jamil's done well, hanging on to P3, Matthew Dernier in P4, and Matthias in P5. They may have a bit of question marks over their head over what happened at turn 1, as Alp is now in the pits. He got that front wing changed. He's coming back out in 19th place. From when did he start? 15th place from 4th all the way down to 19th. That is not good for the championship leader. He will be praying for a safety car in this race. But at the moment, a little bit of a silver lining to the cloud hanging over Alp is that his teammate is currently leading. And he's doing a good enough job to keep the charging Brazilian behind. Now, unfortunately for Fass, he won't be able to find a move here in Sector 3. But what he can do is put a ton of pressure on Bean Sandwich to make a mistake, particularly at turns 22 and 23. So what he'll do, he'll put a lot of pressure on him. Oh, hang on. What's happened to Purple? Into the wall. That's another thing, but I'll mention that soon. So what Fass will do, he'll try and make Bean make a mistake here. And Bean, he's understeered a little bit. Just a little bit. Oh, but Fass oversteers. He didn't need that. If he kept that car relatively straight, he might have challenged Bean Sandwich into turn 1, which is probably the best spot to overtake in these conditions. Either that, or he'll try and get a run through turn 5. So coming through turn 4 here, into turn 5. Bean, no, he does quite nicely, Bean Sandwich. So Fass won't be able to get a run here. But what he's going to try and make him do is make Bean make a mistake. And then try and get as close as you can to him down the straightaway and overtake him into the next corner. So the overtaking spots for Fass at this stage, definitely turn 7 and turn 1. And looking further back, got drivers sort of in self-preservation mode at this stage. Trying not to crash out is their objective at the moment. They don't really mind hanging out where they are. They just want to keep trundling along until the intermediate conditions eventually go away. Theus is now starting to get all over the back of Matthew Dernier, and he plays a major part in the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship as well. Sector 2 yellow flags. Oh, something's happened to Captain Schmeg. Oh, dear me, where are you? Oh, over the Anderson Bridge. How on earth have you done that? Clipped the wall maybe? Spun the car around? I've seen that a couple of times. He's got a really damaged front wing as well, so he'll have to come in. Now, race lead, Bean Sandwich and BRT Fass into turns 22 and 23. But Bean Sandwich, that's an awesome run out of turn 21. Fass isn't going to be able to do anything this lap, at least. Lost a fair amount of time, and Matthew is starting to go all over the back of the Red Bull of Jamil. Here we go into turn 1. Will he look to the inside? He does. He sends it into turn 1. Oh, and contact between the two, and Andre Jamil comes out on top. Sector 2 and 3 yellow flags. That's a McLaren. Circuito again. Now, if you notice that in the background, there's a tyre barrier right there. That is the tyre barrier of doom. Well, the first tyre barrier of doom. There's a second one as well, and it comes up, it's fairly close to here actually. Turn 18, there's a tyre barrier on the outside. You can see it there, the Emirates Fly Better tyre barrier. When a driver hits that, it becomes very disfigured, but it still acts like a concrete wall, more or less. So when a driver hits that thing, even if it's just a little bit, the car typically gets destroyed, as Matthias gets a 3-second penalty. So when it becomes disfigured and a little bit sits out of the racing line, you are quite vulnerable to just clipping that and completely destroying your car. So you have to be careful when those tyre barriers get disfigured like that. Hopefully they won't get too disfigured. Now, Matthias is all over the back of Matthew. In fact, Matthew seems to have lost time to Jamil. And Latoub is starting to catch up in 6th place, so he's introducing himself to this battle. Oh, this is getting... Oh, and again, Fass making a mistake at turn 21. Sector 2 and 3 yellow flags. That's Racer? No, it's the other Williams, Solano. And look at that tyre barrier. It's really creeping on to the race circuit, so drivers have to be really, really careful. They don't run wide like that and go into the wall. Luckily for Alf, he didn't go into the wall, but I have seen it a couple of times where drivers just understeer too much and they run themselves into the outside tyre barrier. Speaking of Alf, because of the drivers making mistakes in front of him, they've now had to make pit stops and they've fallen behind him. He's now in 13th place, but that car looks seriously uncomfortable to drive. He doesn't like it at all. Now we'll go back up to this battle between the 4 drivers for 3rd place. Even though that car looks uncomfortable, he's still quick in it, fastest lap. You kind of expect that though in the clear air. Oh, dearie me. Well, Latouf is starting to fall away from this battle of 3, but he's not completely fallen away. He's still there or thereabouts. Hopefully he can just hang in there. It seems that Matthew might be trying to line himself up for another overtake, but with that small mistake, he's now fallen back into the clutches of the silver arrows of Matthias through turns 16 and 17. Turns 18, 19, 20 and 21. We're only 5 laps into this. 5. 31 laps. 5. Oh, there's a lot of racing to still go ahead. So Matthew Matthew probably made just a small mistake, but it's not enough, I think, to let Matthias make a move here into turn 1. Jamil, a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. They are quite easy to make around here, penalties. Just cut one too many corners, run wide on one too many corners, and just cop a 3-second. Now Beam Sandwich is starting. Well, I was thinking he might have started to pull away, but no, it's because the gap's sort of fluctuating, isn't it? Sector 2 and 3 yellow flags, that's of Williams of Solano. Completely stopped on circuit, and Matthias has actually made a move on Matthew Dernier as Alv makes another fastest lap of 1 minute 55.2. LAS scared 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. Deary me. Coming over the Anderson Bridge into the hairpin, and you can just see that Matthew just doesn't quite look comfortable with that car at the moment. Matthias's car looks pretty planted at this stage. And even better still, Jamil looks pretty nice as well in P3. And it seems like the intermediate conditions haven't let up at all. But maybe it's just me, but the track is starting to look drier than what it did at the start, so might be seeing the conditions change fairly soon. Again, these two still fighting it out, and Beam Sandwich is doing a fantastic job holding off Fast, but here we go. Fast has got a great run through the final 2 corners. He looks to the outside. Beam Sandwich putting the car exactly where it needs to be, and he holds on to P1. Nice little scrap there, little melee, not much. And at the moment, Beam Sandwich is doing exactly what he needs to do for the sake of the championship. For the sake of his teammate and for the sake of his team as a whole. Now Matthew's starting to fall away from the Silver Arrows and the Red Bull. Gap has opened up, and the Haas again, it's purple, is it? No, skid, sorry. Purple in the Renault. Solano, through that same corner. So how much... Oh, that tyre barrier has popped out just a little bit. Not a great deal, but a little bit. Sector 1 yellow flags, that's a McLaren. How on earth have you done that? Laquito in 19th place. Excuse me. is still continuing between these two. And at the moment, Fast is just fallen away from being sandwiched a little bit. But you can see there that Fast has got a full charge of ERS, 100%. Being sandwiched is using a little bit of his. The rain stopped. The rain stopped. Okay. So when do they come in? Is Fast going to go in? No. You can see a dry line forming. You can see there that slightly greyer, darker grey line on the racing line. Any of these guys? Not quite. Not quite dry enough. There's still plenty of spray coming off the tyre. None of them are coming in. None of them are going to take a gamble. And at this stage, what do you go with? Do you go with a 2-stop or a 1-stop? We'll have to wait and see what the drivers think. If they're doing a 2-stop, they'll go onto a medium tyre, maybe a soft tyre. As John Neves, you saw it there, just cut turn 2 a bit too much. He gets a 3-second time penalty. Ooh, overtake. Down the inside into turn 7. Matthias moves himself into P3, and Matthew started to catch up onto the back of these two because of their little battle. Still plenty of spray. So maybe lap 9 we'll see the drivers come in. See what kind of strategy they'll go with. Through turns 12 into turn 13, as JFD has made a move on John Neves on that small straightaway into the Singapore swing. Fourth gear, okay, they're using quite high gears just to try and minimise wheel spin. But Matthias's car looks planted at the moment. Looks really, really good in comparison to the two drivers behind. And someone's into the wall. Is that Neves? It is. Another one into the wall. And you can see how much that tyre barrier has popped out. Now the drivers are still staying out. No one's coming in. I reckon Alpine might gamble here. There's not much spray coming off the tyre. I reckon he might take a gamble this very lap. Come in. Maybe put on softs, maybe? Because the track looks dry, but sometimes the game doesn't register it as dry. But I think he might take a gamble and come in. Those inters rather look really understeery, so I wonder if he'll just gamble. Someone is, John Neves is, onto the hard tyre? Yep, onto the hard tyre. Will Alpine, yep, there we go. I thought he would. Nothing to lose in his position. Into the pits he goes. Now, what will he do? What will the Racing Point team do? What is that? Hard tyre. So he's going to the end. So it seems at this stage no one's going to gamble with the 2-stop. The problem with the hards in these conditions is that they're probably going to be all over the place. Let's ride on board with John, as DRS is now enabled. So these guys have timed their stops perfectly. Would it have been a good gamble for any of the top runners to do exactly what these guys have done? I think I would have taken a chance if I was one of these guys, but there we go. So these guys are all going to pile in, and it's going to be a double stack for Mercedes. I think one of these two had to have gambled on that previous lap to try and avoid the double stack. They should have known they were pretty close to the track going back to dry conditions, and in they come. They're all just going to pile into the pits. Now, what will these guys do? It looks like hards for Fass. He's doing a 1-stop. Being sandwiched. Is he being held up? No, surely not. He's being held up, is he? He's now behind Fass. He got held up in the pit, so everyone seems to be doing the 1-stop. Minus Latouf. in P6, the Alfa Romeo driver, I think. No, he's on the hard tyre, it seems. It came up with mediums then, but no, it's actually hards. So onto the mediums goes Racer and Mick McCoat. So all of these guys are doing a one-stop. Interesting. None of them are going to gamble with the 2. Probably a fair call. Oh, it's John. He's now fighting for P7. That's how much of an undercut he got. Pitting that 1 lap earlier on the hard tyre. He's now up into 7th place. Well in front of JFD and Kimi. Really. But that was a critical pit stop for the Mercedes-Benz team. I don't know how fast came out in front of being sandwiched. In front. What on earth happened to Bean? All that hard work undone in the pit stops. Dearie me. It seems that Macedonia has lost a lot of time during the pit stop phase. He's now 2 seconds behind the 2 fighting for 3rd place. Solano, another 3-second time penalty. I believe that's now 6 seconds for the Williams driver. Into turns 22 and 23 goes these 2. DRS wide open. Jamil goes awfully wide. And coming into turn 1, down the inside. It's now Mercedes 1st and 3rd. But I'm sure Jamil will find a way to retaliate down the 2nd DRS straight. Racer has now got 3 seconds next to his name in P10. On the medium tyre as well, be interesting to see how he goes. John Neves, new fastest lap of 43.595 for the Red Bull driver. As you'd expect, as Alp just obliterates that, a 1 minute 41.063. How much of a recovery drive, how big of a recovery drive will Alp's recovery drive be? I mean, he's 12th at the moment. He's lining himself up. Oh, we got a nice sort of scrap here. Into turn 8. Down the inside. Oh, and maybe into the wall. Doesn't seem like it though. Wings seem to be intact. As Alp makes a move on Mick McCoat. So how far will he come back? He's got 21 laps. He's got 20 laps plus the lap he's on, so it's 21, or 20 and a bit. He's in 11th place, he's just outside of the points. If there's a safety car, he's right back into this. I'm actually quite surprised and quite pleased to see there hasn't been a safety car. It just shows you how well these guys have been driving. And only 1 retirement as well, so these guys are still going, which is great to see. As now Matthew Dernier is going to make a move on the Red Bull. Not quite. He's learned from what happened in the wet to not just send it down the inside into turn 1. He did the same thing in intermediate conditions on Jamil, and Jamil still found a way to come out on top. He'll probably just lining up here, but Jamil got a fantastic exit out of turn 5. You can see there the DRS is that powerful. He'll move to the inside into turn 7. And he'll get the job done easily. Out another new fastest lap. So. Oh, dearie me. Jamil. With the sheer power of the DRS, he's just fallen away from the 2 drivers in front. Matthew Dernier and Matthias absolutely electric in these conditions. And now Fass is really starting to put the hammer down. He's got a 1.5 second margin over Bean Sandwich in P2. Then 7.5 seconds back from Bean Sandwich is Matthias in P3. Let's see. A nice sort of battle for P7 here. Racer X and John Neves. John on the hard tyre. He has a less... Oh! I am not a big fan of that at all. Racer, I think he might have been. I think he'll feel that he's been hard done by John. Moving a lot, effectively blocking down the straightaway. Not necessarily in a braking zone. Blocking down the straightaway. You feel like when you come into braking zones, the driver in front has to try and hold the line. John goes defensive into turn one, but there's no way he's going to try and hold on to the position. Oh, he does. Racer gives him plenty of space. Good sportsmanship from the Williams driver. Now drivers are starting to get a few penalties. You can see there Racer's got way more pace than John at the moment. Those medium tyres are doing the job. Now he's going to look to the outside into turn 6, which in turn gives him the in 7. He'll now finally move himself up into P7. No, John sends it. Racer's having none of it though. We got some side-by-side action into turn 8. The Red Bull. Oh, and he's been turned! He's been turned! Turned right round. He's now ghosting. He has to be careful here. Into the wall, wing damage. He's been turned. What do you think? What do you think? I have to say it was quite a slow turn. It's not been like some of the rapid ones that you see in these races. It was quite slow and progressive, that spin. Considering we've seen what the two drivers have done over the course of that little exchange, it'd be interesting to see how the stewards see that. Because of that, Alpin is now in 10th place. He's now in a point scoring position. However, he is quite a fair way behind his championship rivals, but every point that he can score at this stage would be vital towards his championship hopes. He's got quite a comfortable margin, but at this stage he's going to be losing the lead of the championship to his rival BRT Fast. But here we go, down the inside into turn 1. Kivy gives him the space. Very nice driving from Kimi. Now Alpin will be lining up JFD and the Ferrari for P8. So if the standings stay as they are, Fast will score 25 points, with Alp scoring 2, which is a 23-point swing towards Fast's favour, which in turn will give him the championship lead coming into the next round in Russia. So it's looking really, really good for Fast at the moment. But, as I've said before, there's a lot of racing to go. In fact, we're not even halfway through this yet. We've got to wait another 2 laps for us to be halfway through this. We've got a lot of racing to go ahead, but it seems that everyone is now in their own little world, which tends to happen here at Singapore. Like, when it's dry, about the first 5 or 6 laps are incredibly chaotic, and a lot of action takes place. Then after that, everyone sort of gathers in groups of 2 or 3, and they sort of battle each other throughout the whole race. Sometimes they'll increase to a group of 6 when a group of 3 in front battle each other so hard that they slow up and the group behind catches up, and it becomes a group of 6. But that's more or less how Singapore works. Chaotic in the first 6, and then everyone sort of gets into their own little groups and they battle each other all the time. That's what tends to happen in dry conditions. When it's wet, this happens. Everyone's so spread out because everyone was in self-preservation mode for the intermediate conditions. So they space each other out, they give each other space, so they can just work by themselves. And that's a very nice move from Alpin around the outside at turn 7. He will in turn have the inside into turn 8. It's a very nice move there. Quite a splendid display of racecraft from Alp. Yeah, when it's wet or intermediate, everyone gives each other space and they just try and get through it. And when it dries up, they're still a fair way away from each other, and they're not able to catch up to each other. Oh, dearie me. This blocked nose is giving me such a headache. This blocked nose. I can't breathe through it. Really annoying. Let's see. So Fast is still leading the way. In fact, he's opened up a 3.3 second gap back to Beam Sandwich, who I'm still wondering why he got held up in the pits, ultimately losing the lead of the race. Matthias in P3. Macedonia, he hasn't showed the pace quite just yet. He's in fact fallen away quite a bit from the silver arrows of Matthias. Jamil has done well to keep it in 5th place. From P2, if I remember correctly. Yep, P2. He's still in the top 5, so lining himself up for plenty of points here at Singapore. He's now got Racer X in front of him and he's trying to hunt him down. Gap now closing to 2 seconds. Into turn 8. Then turn 9. Now Racer, he's got better tyres, but Alpum is just fast. He's just fast. So I'm not sure how long Racer X is going to be able to hold up to the sheer speed of Alp. Over the Anderson Bridge to turn 13, first gear short shift to 2nd. Gap is closed to 1.7 seconds. Through turn 14. It's almost as if Alp is in a completely different car. On the hard tyre, he's catching up to Racer X at a rapid rate of knots. I mean, and Racer's on the medium. It's unbelievable he is. So that gap that was about 2 seconds, it's now 1 second. He's gained a second in that lap. But after Racer, he's got a 9-second margin to get up to Latoub and another 11 seconds to get up to Andre Jamil. So it's looking good for these two to hang on to their positions for now. Now Alpine. DRS open. Down this back straightaway. Will he look to the inside? Not quite. He's not quite close enough. Into turn 8, 2nd gear. Very nice, very smooth driving. You can see that there. Very progressive with the throttle, very progressive on the brakes, and very progressive in the steering. It's good to see. See that there? It's just one simple movement. He doesn't take 2 or 3 jabs with it. 2 or 3 jabs with the steering. He gets around the corner in one simple movement. As something's happened to Purple at turn 3. He's got wing damage as well. I wonder if he's been in a battle with these two. I haven't been looking too much at the tail end of the field. Something may have happened here. But now Alp, with his sheer speed, he can't find a way past through here. There's no overtaking opportunities. It's all about setting up for the final 2 corners and trying to overtake into turn 1. Let's see how he does it. So he comes out of turn 21. Racer with the better tyre is able to put the power down. The Racer just missing the apex slightly and having a bit of a moment as well. So he loses time, but he's not quite close enough still. Racer doing a good enough job to hold on to the position for now. Through turn 3. This is another place where he'll try and get a good run. Turn 5. Try and get a good run into the DRS zone. He's got a superb run. I think he's going to have a go here. Into overtake mode. He's going to look to the inside. Racer doesn't defend at all. To the inside, and he gets the position quite easily. So in regards to overtaking, you really have to use the DRS zones to your advantage, and it's all about maximizing the corner exit speed of the corner that's just behind the DRS zone. He's really trying to maximize the speed coming out of it. That way you can get as much speed as you possibly can down the straight He have a much easier time overtaking the car in front. This racer has quite the moment coming out of turn 13. Another moment in P8, the Williams driver. And he might need to make another stop soon as well. Sector 2 yellow flags. Is that the Alpha? Must have been. At the hairpin. That's the only driver I think that could have caused that yellow flag. LAS Purple, a 5-second penalty. Crossing the pit lane exit white line. Big no-no in this game. Can't cross the white line. I mean, you can ram someone into oblivion and get away with a warning, but if you cross the white line at pit exit, no, that's 5 seconds, mate. 5 seconds. You gotta love how broken this game is, honestly. I mean, the 5-second penalty is deserved because for safety reasons, you do not cross that white line because you're a slow car in comparison to the rest of the field. However, I just find it funny that you can ram someone into Narnia and get away with it. It's just... I just find that funny. Hopefully they'll fix that for F1 2020, but I just have the feeling that F1 2020 is just going to be a reskin of F1 2019. I mean, everyone is talking about the My Team thing and how this is going to be such a nice game changer for the F1 series. But let's not forget, we were talking about the same stuff in regards to the role-playing game, the new role-playing element in F1 2019. We were all hyped about that, and then it just turned out to be 3 rather crap scenarios, and you get to keep 2 of the AI that you were fighting against, and they, you know, battle along against you or with you throughout your career mode. I mean, that's not really a role-playing campaign, it's just... Oh, well, I guess it is. It's just a really crap one. So with this new My Team thing, as Alp sets a new fastest lap, yeah, it sounds great on paper, but so did the role-playing career mode. And the role-playing career mode turned out to be garbage. So I'm guessing My Team for F1 2020 is going to be the exact same thing. Everyone's going to hype it up, then it's just going to be a load of garbage. That doesn't work. That's uninteresting to play and serves little to no purpose in the game except acting as a filler sort of thing. Just something for you to do, I guess. Rather than try to be a game changer. Because that's all that gaming companies are these days. They just... There's no soul behind it. There's no enjoyment in the single player stuff anymore. It's all multiplayer stuff in this time. I remember playing F1 2017. I went through 3 or 4 seasons in F1 2017. It wasn't the best game that I played, but I enjoyed it enough to the point where I played 3 or 4 seasons. I haven't even completed 1 season in this game. That's how uninteresting it is. And I have a feeling that F1 2020 is going to be the exact same. It's just F1 2019 with Zandvoort and Hanoi with this My Team thing that's probably going to serve next to no purpose. I'm way more keen for the Schumacher DLC, which hopefully will be quite nice, celebrating the most prolific driver in the history of the sport, until Lewis Hamilton eventually beats him. I'm sure he will, unfortunately. Hamilton is that freaking quick. As Racer comes into the pits, okay. So he's had enough. He's going to switch to another set of mediums and go to the end. You really don't want to use the softs. Avoid the softs at all cost. Avoid them. Oh, and his teammate is in front of him. Oh, no. Great communication. And now everyone's out in their own little world. Right. You can see the gaps. They are massive between everyone, it seems. I think Alpine will be probably the driver to watch as he hunts down Leclerc in the Alfa Romeo. But this is pretty much Singapore in a nutshell. It's It's either a bore fest or it's a really exciting drama fest. It's usually one of those two. It doesn't generally give great racing. It does on the occasion, but generally speaking, it just doesn't. Sector 1, yellow flags. Doesn't appear to be anything. It must have just been a slow car. Tell you what, we're right on board. We'll just take a closer look at the lap. I'll keep the track map up just in case if anything happens. Then we can quickly dart to it. But this man has been charging his way back through the field after what happened on lap 1. We'll just take a keen eye on how he conducts himself over a lap. So he's in mode 3, trying to really maximise the speed down the straights. Then he switches to mode 1, understeers a lot through turn 1 though. Must have only just got a warning, because he definitely had all 4 tyres over. And I was just interested to see that he's not in mode 0 through there. He's just in mode 1. Chucks it back up into mode 3, 7th gear. He'll probably keep it in 7th. Then back to mode 0 for turn 7, 8 and 9 I imagine. I don't think he'll change it back up. No. See there, Latope getting closer and closer towards the racing point. Then briefly into mode 2, interesting. Just ever so briefly into mode 2. Between 8 and 9. Into the Singapore Sling. Fourth gear, over the Anderson Bridge, and again briefly into mode 2, then back into mode 1 for the hairpin. Up the gears again. You can see the car looks incredibly stable too. LAS Chucky a 5-second penalty, speeding in the pit lane. Mode 1. See that he manages his ERS quite nicely. Then mode 2 I'm guessing? No, okay. I would have thought he would use mode 2 through this section because of the small straights, just really trying to maximise the small straights, but no, he doesn't. And back up into mode 2, now mode 3, back to mode 2, then into mode 4. Wow, okay. That is really, really fascinating to watch. Now will he do it again? Oh, you got Chucky to drive through. That's not healthy. Mode 3, back to mode 0. Mode 3, mode 4 for overtake. Is he going to try and go for a move here? Into turn 7, Latope goes defensive, but around the outside. That is an awesome move by the championship leader. Absolutely awesome. He moves himself into P6. So in P6, let's see, 25, 18, 15, 12, 10. He'll get 8 points versus 25. That's a 17-point swing, and that will close the gap to 4 points. But Alpum will critically hold on to the lead as Captain Schmeck gets a 3-second time penalty. So the gap will close to about 4 points. And the gap between Fass and Matthew will open up a little bit. The gap between these two at the moment is 32 points, so 25 and 12, I think. Yeah, 25 and 12, 13 points. So the gap will open up between those two to 45. 12 to 8 is a 4-point swing, so the gap will close between Matt and Alp from 53 to 49 points. Bit of a shake-up in the championship. Sort of Matthew's gaining on Alpine, but he's losing to Fass at the same time. So overall, it's not looking like a fantastic weekend for the Ferrari team. And considering that the Mercedes guys are 1st and 3rd, the Racing Point guys are 2nd and 6th, it's not looking good for Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship, as Ferrari are 4th and 8th. They have both cars in the 10, but so do the other two teams that they're battling with. So, not looking good for the Ferrari team as a whole. Now, I don't know where to look. Look at the gaps, ladies and gentlemen. They are huge, massive, colossal. So many other words I could use to describe the gaps. Just typical Singapore stuff, this. Now, we saw how Alpum conducted himself. Let's watch Fass conduct himself, as we have a Renault, I think? Oh, it's only a guy right at the tail end of the field. Okay, no problem. Well, let's watch Fass over a lap. So mode 2, up to mode 4, 5 even, but he saved up quite a bit of ERS. So he might be on a really quick lap. Down to mode 0. So he's using a little bit more on the straights, because he has more resources to play with. Keeps it in mode 0. Will he chuck it up here? Yes, he will, to mode 3. Back down to mode 0. So only briefly in mode 3. Through the S's. After the Singapore Sling over the Anderson Bridge. Now we saw here that Alpum changed it up to mode 2, then back down to mode 1. He's kept it in mode 0. Chucks it up to mode 4, then way back down to mode 0. You can see there, he is managing his ERS really, really nicely. And he's maintaining fantastic speed. Into the cascade of 90s in the third sector, and right back up to 100%. You can see that there. So he's managing to use ERS, but keep his overall supply at 100% across the course of a lap, more or less. We'll just see what he does at the end of Sector 3. Just to see whether or not he keeps that 100% of ERS in the third sector. It's just very interesting to see how these top tier guys conduct themselves over a course of the race. How they manage fuel, ERS, how they manage the tyre. And you can see here, now Alpum was very steady with the steering. He sort of did it in one complete move. You can see there a little grab here and there from Fass. If you notice the wheel, it's not one complete movement. You know, he doesn't just turn in once. Sometimes it's a few jabs with the steering wheel, just to try and kiss the apex of each turn. Singapore Sling, very nice through here. Very nice through here as well. A few jabs here and there. It's very nice through the hairpin. Now down this short straight into turn, oh, and a penalty as well for ignoring blue flags. I think that was John. Not quite sure. You see there, there's a few little jabs more with the steering. It's not quite as smooth, almost as smooth, but not quite. Now, we'll see that ERS, will that return back to 100% at the end of this bus stop section? I think it just might. 97, almost. So he's keeping his ERS more or less in the 90s at this stage. It is really good driving, is what it is. Really nice, consistent driving. And he's opened up the gap to 9.1 seconds. It's a huge gap between himself and second place. Matthias is doing well to hang on to third at this stage. Now, that gap has closed up. The last time we checked in with this leaderboard, before we went on board with Fass, that gap between Alpum and Jamil was about 12 seconds. It's closed down to 8.3, so Alpum is absolutely flying. Going from 6th to 5th, that'll be a jump in 2 points, from 8 to 10, and that's really, really going to help out in his championship hopes. With 5 laps to go. Captain Schmeg actually comes into the pits, chucks on a fresh set of softs, and he's going to try and take the fastest lap away. By doing so, it means none of the drivers in the top 10 will be able to score that 1 extra point for fastest lap. Now, there's the other championship leader. I want to see how he conducts himself. Let's ride on board. Yep, no problem. Righto. So, we've looked at Alpin, we've looked at Fass. I wouldn't mind seeing how this man conducted himself around this circuit. Now, chucks it up into mode 4. Now, he's using a lot more ERS in comparison to Fass at the moment, on more or less 50%. I just want to see if that Williams battle is actually legit. No, it's not. Unfortunately not. That's unfortunate. I just saw the dots on the circuit and I thought maybe there could have been a Williams and a Renault battle coming into turn 7 now, as you can see on the minimap, but no, there's just lap traffic, unfortunately. You can see they're using a lot more ERS on the straights. Down to mode 1, he doesn't chuck it into mode 0, so he's doing more what Alpoom did in that bit, and he chucks it up into mode 5 for this straight, mode 3 for turn 5, so he's consuming a lot more ERS across the first sector in comparison to both drivers. I think he might be really pushing on this lap too. Mode 0 for this sector, and I imagine he'll keep it into mode 0 until he comes out of turn 9. Let's see. Does exactly that. Mode 3, back to mode 0. And this is great for people who want to understand how these top guys conduct themselves over the course of a race, over this circuit as well. How they manage the ERS, how they maintain speed yet conserve energy at the same time. Although Matthew is definitely not conserving energy, he is pushing hard on this lap. He's kept it in mode 3. Interesting to see through turn 14, and chucks it all the way back down to mode 0 for sector 3. And gets a 3-second time penalty. Deary me. But he's more or less in the middle of nowhere, so it won't affect him too much in terms of position anyway. Mode 0 still. And he chucks it up to mode 5. Okay, and he keeps it in mode 5 for pretty much all the way through the final 2 corners and onto the pit straight. And all the way back down to mode... Oh, he uses mode 3 now. So he's using more and more ERS. Rightio. Oh, and that's a big tank slapper. Deary me. Captain Schmeck, there we go. New fastest lapper. 38.6. Oh, and another one. These guys are still pushing hard. Good to see. So Alpha, he's now trying to hunt down the Red Bull, and its gap. The gap is close to 6 seconds. Now, I'm just going to check in regards to penalties. Jamil has got 6 seconds. What does Alpum have? 2 warnings. So even now, Alpum has got 5th place in the bag. Just because of penalties. However, if he gets another warning, he'll get 3 seconds added on. To which point he needs to close the gap to 3 seconds in order to get 5th place. As fast, I thought that was Alpum then. As fast gets 3 seconds, but he's in absolutely clear air. There's absolutely nothing to worry about with him. Oh dear. This has been a very, very long race, I have to say. It has been long. Very long. Which can be a good thing, because a good long race means there's plenty of time for action and chaos and good racing, but unfortunately we just haven't had that. And no safety car. I don't even think we've had a virtual safety car, come to think of it. I might be wrong. Ah, dearie me. That gap has now closed up to 4.7, now 4.5 seconds between Jamil and Alp. I know Alp has got P5 in the bag, but I'm guessing he's thinking, I want to do this on circuit. I want to try and catch up to the Red Bull. Or at the very least, if he gets a warning, he needs to be within 3 seconds. But at this stage, the championship leader is looking pretty on point at the moment. So, with 5th place, there will be 10 points to his name. That will be a 15-point swing in Fass's favour. And that will close the gap to 6 points. Just 6 coming into the next round. JFD, a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. Deary me. Where is he? Mr. Fass, it's just been an absolutely superb drive from him. And let's not forget being sandwiched. That was an excellent opening stint for the Racing Point driver, and I think he may have been in a good place to try and hang on to that first place if he didn't get screwed over in the pit stops. Something happened in the stops, and he lost first place to Fass. And ever since Fass got the lead, he's never looked back. He's been just setting fastest lap. Oh well, not fastest lap, just really fast, consistent lap times, and he's just pulled away from being sandwiched. Captain Schmeg, another 3-second time penalty for corner cutting in 13th place. He's got fastest lap, but he won't score that point as he isn't in the top 10. In fact, no one will score the point. I think that's how it works. I think the fastest lap goes to the driver who does set the fastest lap. Not just the driver in the top 10 who's set the... if I can get the words out, it doesn't go to the driver who set the fastest lap within the top 10. It goes to the driver who set the fastest lap overall. It's just... Ooh, sector 3 yellows. Oh, something happened there to the McLaren. Just had a moment. So no one, I think, will score fastest lap. So there goes that point. But I don't think that will matter too much for Fass. It has been a simply clinical drive from the Brazilian. And he will win here in Singapore. Being sandwiched will come home in P2, I do believe. Out of the final 2 corners to come home in P2. Very nice finish there for the Racing Point driver. Matthias in P3. Macedonia in P4. It's a very good points haul for Mercedes-Benz. They'll definitely close the gap between themselves and Racing Point. Macedonia P4. Jamil, a very nice P5. A good bit of qualifying and a nice little race. Scores himself 12 very valuable points. But then gets overtaken by Alpine because of penalties. So Alpine will finish 5th. After what happened at the start, he went from 4th to last on the first lap, and he's recovered to 5th place. It's a very nice drive from the championship leader. So that will be, let's see, officially speaking, in regards to the championship, as Latour comes across the line to come home in 7th place. JFD will come home in 8th for Ferrari. Kimi, on his debut, if I'm not mistaken, will come home in 9th and score 2 points. And Racer X at this stage will come home in P10. I'm not sure what the penalties are like between these two. I think Racer's got it. He'll score the 1 extra point. Excuse me. And Mick McCoy will come home in 11th place. Unfortunately, it wasn't the most amazing race ever. Kind of a more real-life Singapore Grand Prix. But still, it doesn't take away what was some simply fantastic driving from the guys out in front. Fass comes home with the win, a commanding win at that. With being sandwiched, an equally superb drive, particularly that opening stint. He did really well to hang on to the lead. Just unfortunately got screwed over in the pit stops. And it's a great day overall for Mercedes-Benz with Matthias in P2. So the unofficial results until steward investigations, if there are indeed any. Fass wins by 9.6 seconds over being sandwiched. Matthias in P3. Macedonia, I'm not sure if that will be a disappointed Matthew. He seemed pretty keen about this race and he comes home in 4th. Alp in P5 recovered very well to finish 5th from last effectively to 5th. Very nice drive. Andre Jamil, now full-time driver in Red Bull, finishes 6th. Latour finishes 7th, a very nice drive from the Alfa Romeo driver. JFD P8, Kimi on his debut reserve drive in P9, and Racer X rounds out the top 10. Also a new full-time driver for Williams. So, quick math time. Fast scores 25. Alpum, I believe, scores 12, I think. No, 10 in P4. It scores 10 in P4. It goes 25, 18, 15, 12, 10. So yeah, he scores 10 points. It's a difference of 15. So the gap closes between Alpum and Fast to 6 points between them coming into the next round. This championship fight has just taken a big swing. It might not have been a very interesting race, but this may be the most important race for the sake of the Drivers' Championship. And also, constructors-wise, 25 and... what is it? It's 15 for P3. That's 40 points for Mercedes. Racing points, they got 18 for second and 10 for fifth. That's 28 points. It's a swing of 12. So the gap between Racing Point and Mercedes-Benz for the top of the table has closed to 14 points. So, yeah, for the sake of the Drivers and the Constructors' Championship, this has played out to be a very important race for both FAS and for Mercedes-Benz. So, at least that's a silver lining to what has been a fairly mediocre race. But you have to have a couple of mediocre races here and there. Unfortunately, it's the longest mediocre race of the season. But regardless, I hope everyone watching did enjoy the stream. I tried to enjoy as much as I could. Hopefully I made it as entertaining as possible. But we move from Singapore to round 16 next week. We go to Russia, to the Sochi Autodrome. Arguably the worst circuit in real-life Formula 1. But, and this is a big but, for some reason, the really bad circuits create epic racing. So the really bad circuits in real life create some of the most epic and most awesome racing in the video game. It's a bit like Paul Ricard and Yas Marina. They do the same thing as well. Don't know why, they just do. So, definitely tune in for next week for round 16 at the Russian Grand Prix. And hopefully we'll get to see how this championship fight unfolds between the top three. Until then, I've been the Smeg. Thank you all so much for watching, and I bid you all a very good night.